One of the more advanced types of layering in Mokume gane is hidden magic. It was invented by Jennifer Patterson, and this is a magazine from 2003 where she describes the method, says how she was inspired actually in 2002 by a workshop of Barbara Maguire, and describes in detail how the technique is done. So you first make the Skinner blend, you do the jelly roll, you wrap the jelly roll in black clay, you square it, you reduce it, then the way of actually flattening it and going through the pasta machine with it, and then sandwiching it between on top a thin layer of black and on the bottom a thick layer of black. Obviously the layer on the bottom is the buffer, but I will show you, it's not just a demo, I just want to show you how and what type of stamps you need if you want to follow her method in detail. Now, do you have to wrap the jelly rolls? Obviously, and I will show you when we get to that part exactly why. Um, of course, you can do a lot of jelly rolls in Mokume gane, and actually the part 4 of the tutorial will talk exactly about that. Actually, not only about that, but I don't know if you noticed, but I'm using the square pairs from Tiny Pandora, and they are so awesome to reduce square canes. I don't have to do all that pinching that bothers my hands a lot. And also I noticed that when using them, you have much less clay protruding on the ends. I am just speeding this up a little bit because there's no use of you watching me for several minutes reducing that. It does work way faster, and also because it moves the whole clay in the whole cane, it's much easier to do the pulling for reducing, and you also have a perfect equal cane all over the place. So I am not using as many colors as she does in the tutorial. She uses 5 colors and uses a stack of 5 by 5. I'm only using 3 colors and will use a stack of 3 by 3. I lengthened them to 6 inches, and I will be cutting them into 2-inch squares and then arranging them exactly. You have to arrange the colors in a diagonal, so the same color would go in a diagonal in a cane. And now let me talk a little bit why you have to roll them. Because the way that the jelly rolls are wrapped, when you flatten them, number one, you have in all Mokume gane, remember the tint and the shade are very important for getting good effects. White is the ultimate tint, black is the ultimate shade. And here you have the ultimate tint in the middle of the jelly roll and the ultimate shade on the edge of the jelly roll nearing the color in the jelly roll. And you will have, whenever the impression is made, you have successive layers but in a specific pattern that will give you specific effects. You cannot get this pattern if the jelly rolls are not wrapped. You cannot get this pattern if you put layers, a sheet between the jelly rolls. Again, can you do it with jelly rolls not wrapped? Yes, of course you can, but that's not hidden magic. You know, it's like giving someone hamburger helper and telling them you made spaghetti. If it's somebody who never had spaghetti, they will believe you and they will say, oh yeah, that tastes so good. But if it's somebody who had spaghetti in their life, they'll look at you asking themselves if you are joking or if you're just ignorant. So And let's get forward. Now, there is a very important thing to keep in mind. If you want to do Jennifer Patterson's hidden magic technique exactly as she explains it, with the top thinnest setting layer of black, you need a stamp that is very deep etched, like the ones that Lisa Pavelka have or Christy Friesen have, because on with a regular stamp, be it an embossing folder, be it Makins, and I will show you exactly that. I'm going to use an embossing folder and I'm going to use a Makins. And you will see that they do not have enough depth to go perfectly. I mean, they go through the top layer of the black sheet. They do impress the immediate next layer, but they don't get deeper than that. And when you do the hidden magic, you want something that goes deeper than that. So if you don't have one of those stamps, I would suggest you completely skip the top layer, because you will still get all the effects from the black clay that's wrapped around the jelly rolls. Now, I'm going to use my jar method, because you have noticed in the past in part 2 of the tutorial, that my hands have given me trouble with using the rigid blade. So, number one, also in this embossing folder, which is a little bit deeper than the Makins and did make impressions a little bit deeper, but the prints are kind of spaced, and you want to use, number one, a stamp that's deeply etched, and number two, a stamp that has the prints, the pattern closer, like in the Makins, but the Makins is not deep enough to penetrate past. I mean, it penetrates past the black layer, but it doesn't penetrate much past the next layers. So you do have some deformation, but not exactly what you would hope for. So when you do this, if you do not have one of those very deep etched stamps or texture sheets, do not use the very topmost layer. And I usually like to do in my tutorials about common basic techniques with using things that most people will have. Now here I will show you the reverse, because it's based on the exact same principle, only here I have reversed. I have the ultimate shade that is black in the middle of the jelly roll, and the ultimate tint that is white wrapping the jelly roll. And I am preparing the whole stack exactly like the explanations of Jennifer Patterson. But, and this time I thought of showing you how it works without the top layer. And I will be using the Makins as bottom layer. I'm just using the scrap clay, because we will make pieces of all of these things. So I'm going to do a backing for this piece, so I don't really care how the back looks like. So I'm putting some armor roll on it, and then I will be using the Makins texture sheet. That's out of the set H. And I'm getting a very deep impression. And always with hidden magic, you will have these lines, these stripes. And they give a type of brocade effect, if you want. But yes, you always have to wrap the jelly roll to the with the opposite of whatever's in the middle of it. Not necessarily black. If you have watched Ludmila Bakulina's tutorial on this technique, she uses bronze. It is a deep enough color to actually do the desired effect. And you can see that this time, because I did not use the top layer, the makings actually did penetrate deep enough to do a lot of effects. And with this spirally texture sheet, it gives some kind of water waves impression. And where the yellow was, I don't know, it looks almost like sound waves. So and also this technique is exceptionally good if you want to do any type of ethnic pieces. If you manage to position the texture stamps in lines, following the lines of the hidden magic sheet with the lines of the texture stamp, because there are a lot of texture stamps that have all kinds of ethnic, archaeological, and all kinds of lines of patterns. But you can see how pretty it actually looks. This is how hidden magic should look. Even if I made it backwards, it's almost like a negative. Um, but it would look as pretty if it were done with the middle of the jelly roll white and the jelly roll wrapped in black. And of course, once you are done, you flatten it. You put a piece of wax paper on top and you flatten it with your roller, and then it is ready to use. And there you go. Here you have the examples. One stamp that was deep enough but did not go all the way through. One stamp that was not deep enough, so it did not form enough patterns. And the other one without using the top layer, where the stamp went deep enough and it did influence all the layers. So happy claying! And I'll see you in the next part where we'll talk about a lot of interesting stuff.